Today we get to see incredible de-escalation technique, but reminder that the perp's actions determine outcomes. Hi everyone, welcome to today's bonus badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. Our host, Mike Williver, the host of the Ask Podcast, and I'm your co-host, John Correa.
I'm the host of the pod. You host this. I host the other thing.
Right. Want to tell them it's from Nashville?
Oh, yeah. Today's video comes to us from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm falling down on the job.
Yeah, professional crew we are.
Throwing targets are lightweight, weatherproof, take thousands of rounds of shooting, and make shooting fun. Pick up a set for your next range trip. Family has called 911 because they have a family member here, and news stories are all linked in the description, who has been threatening people and having an episode, said he had a gun and was willing to use it. And so, of course, cops show up heavy to start talking to him and negotiating with him. And if you go and read the news stories, you can go watch the original with some breakdown by their chief of police. They negotiated with this guy for about 25 minutes. What you see right now is he's actually just off camera, fairly close to a school, and then behind him is a multifamily housing unit, and they are very worried that he is going to go with that gun into the multifamily housing unit. Let's listen in on the officers as they are trying to communicate with him on badge cam and the dash cam audio.
Get your hand away from the waist. Put your hands up.
Step back, walk up your foot.
Hey, you guys are batting towards the apartment, so let's play and we take care of this.
All I want is one chance to talk to you. One chance.
Stay out of sight.
Give me that chance to help you. Give me a chance.
Fillmore and Jefferson. And
Hey, listen to me. I'm genuinely here to try to help you. I have taser if he comes closer. It ain't nobody here but you and me, man. It's just us. Hey. It's you and me. We're still talking. We're still talking.
Negative. Hold it.
I've zoomed it in and slowed it down here, and you can see our perp is going to end up drawing a gun with his left hand. And the officers did not open fire on him when he drew the pistol with his left hand. Watch now what happens as he's, yakking at them, turns away from them, looks around, but when he turns back towards the officers, two officers opened fire on him and hit him and knocked him down. If you go read the news stories that I have linked in the description, you saw, already that they are going to run up and do their very best to offer first aid to this guy. It worked, and he was booked into jail on this. After he was booked into jail for these counts of threats and all those things and aggravated assault for drawing a gun at police officers, he actually admitted to 2 separate other murders. And so he is going to spend probably the rest of his life in prison, not for what he did here, but for what he admitted to the officers afterwards. You can see on the badge cams there, they did a really good job. They actually had an officer on scene who was an EMT certified officer and enough people around that they were able to get him good medical care and get him into custody and get him the help he needs. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and we are going to think about lessons.
Man, seriously, if you're not listening to the Active Self-Protection podcast, you are missing out. I've had a couple of really interesting private citizen defensive encounters recently.
Yeah, we're trying not to be, as I said before, too focused on LE shootings, because those are pretty well documented. We're trying to get the stories behind private citizen defenders as often as we can to hear about their training, about the incident, and especially about the legal, the emotional aftermath.
Come and check it out, guys. It's great listening.
I really think these officers deserve some commendation for spending as much time as they did just trying to talk this guy down. Obviously a volatile situation. You know that the guy is likely to be armed. You know that there's of the public to protect around here. Of course, the strategy that we use here is we seek to to make contact with the guy, to have some communication with him that you know that he knows you're there and you could talk. Then to establish and build rapport. You want to kind of talk to this guy and make some connection with him. After you have established rapport and built rapport, then you want to start influencing behavior. Hey man, can I ask you to come this way? Can I ask you to sit down on the ground there or whatever? Once you've built some rapport, once you influence that behavior, then you can maybe achieve an appropriate law enforcement aim. But I also think the other side of this one, Mike, is they're trying their best. Of course they got their guns out because we think this guy's armed. Turns out he was armed. But also, he gets a definitive vote in how this ends up going down. And so you can't de-escalate somebody. Only they can de-escalate themselves.
I'm not a huge fan of yelling, drop the gun 374 times. At this point, this guy's now weighing his options. But he turned away from these officers. He's going through his head as something like, I wonder if I can get all the way over there. I wonder what I can do next or what my next action could possibly. And he turns back around. They saw something because they both fired evidently at the exact same moment. So they saw what they needed to see to make a decision to use deadly force. And, I just can't say it enough. If you want to play games and act like this, there's a real possibility you're bringing something really bad onto your own head, in this case being shot a couple times. You just can't do this, because once the police are involved, as we know, the results are anything from talking him down and sending him home to him ending up dead. Well, in this case, fortunately, he didn't die.
And I actually think what I see here, I'm surprised the officers didn't shoot right here, Mike. I mean, listen, if I'm thinking of the appropriate strike point, if that guy gets a gun in his hand, I'm going to end up having to shoot him because I can't take that risk. And they didn't in this particular case. So I think there's a balance here. Obviously, you're trying to talk to this guy. I think the officer whose badge cam that we saw earlier did a really good job of trying to talk to him, right? For a long time when he didn't have a gun in his hand. But I really think here at this point, waiting some more, he just grabbed a gun up. That is really playing with fire, in my opinion. And I admire their restraint, but I think it might be bordering on recklessness at this point. He probably should have been shot right here.
If you remember, not long ago, we covered a video where a man in Atlanta during a domestic violence call was allowed to sort of wander around this apartment complex for like 15 minutes. And we had a lot to say about that one. I think this is kind of the opposite of that, where they're not going to allow him to just stand there with a gun in his hand, being unstable and volatile. I mean, at any moment, a couple little kids could come out from behind that building behind him, and we don't know what's going to happen then.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, sometimes you just have to take the initiative, and what's what they did. And again, I'm pretty sure they both saw the same thing at that moment, since they appeared to have fired at the exact same time.
Well, and clearly, when a guy pulls a gun, I think it would have been justified in that moment, knowing everything that's going on
Sure.
here, to
Absolutely.
shoot him right that moment. They chose not to. But again, you get that point. He turns away from me, man, I can't let him get into that complex. So as long as he stays there and he's away from me, okay, fine. But if he turns back towards me, I got to decide in that moment, okay, now's the time. So that's what they did. When he turned around, still had that gun in his hand, they say, nope, too much danger, too much time. We've got to stop this threat. Now, of course, he lived through this, and that's totally okay and totally fine. But especially if you have a stabilized shot at this 30 to 40 yard range with a patrol carbine, you need to feel super confident that you are going to put one in the perp and put him down immediately. And that takes a high level of competence to have that level of confidence.
Rifle skills, I'm first of all, I'm so glad that in my generation of law enforcement, this has become a thing now. The patrol carbines are fairly common, and they really are a force multiplier. You can be at a much better standoff distance, which they were here. They were far enough away to feel comfortable, and obviously they were confident in their training. As you said, they were confident to be able to make these shots. Moving forward here, I don't like this guy moving it as fast as he did. I would like to see him take a little bit more time, maybe try to get the guy to prone out or something, but they did what they did, and the tsunami of blue polyester now arrives to do the pylon on this guy.
And again, so they arrive to try to, okay, I want to end this threat as soon as I can, so then that way I can get him into custody and get the medical, equipment to him, get the life-saving measures to him, see him turn around there one more time, and no hesitation when he turned around again. I think that was good decision-making. So I like that they stayed away in the original and set up their perimeter on this guy at 25 or 30 yards or 40 yards even. I like that, hey, we're going to give him every opportunity. I think that they negotiated well, but remember, you can't de-escalate somebody. Only they can de-escalate themselves. They have to decide that they don't want to get shot that day. He didn't, and I think the officers did exactly what they had to do to cover their ass.